The city of San Francisco has long been home to the most left-wing politics in the country, yet a recent piece in the Washington Post quotes longtime residents calling the city a train wreck and highlights many attributes that are the opposite of what progressives say they stand for. The downfall of San Francisco is tonight's loony left. All right, here's a quote from that Washington Post piece. To take a midday tour downtown is to be enveloped by a jeaned and athleisured army of young workers, mostly white and Asian, and predominantly male. The presence of a boomer or toddler is akin to spotting an endangered species. The city is too homogenous, too expensive, too tech, too millennial, too white, too elite, too bro. I can add to that from personal experience over many years. The entire city stinks of feces, urine and weed. Drug paraphernalia can be found on every street corner. Homeless people line the sidewalks. Potholes puncture the roads. And yet the housing is so expensive, regular working Americans with jobs in the city often have 2 or even 3-hour commutes from somewhere affordable. San Francisco is a civic catastrophe, and it is entirely the responsibility of the Democrats and the self-righteous big tech overlords who slavishly back them. They've been in sole control of state and local government for over a decade. There's no one else to blame. God help us all if this goes national.
And we're seeing it. God help us all if this goes national, but we're seeing it. We're seeing it spread. Unfortunately, when you think about this, it's so tragic. It's so horrible that when people from other countries get to San Francisco and walk out on the streets and they're expecting to see this booming, beautiful city on the hill, they see feces, they see homelessness, they see people with mental illness just rummaging around in the streets looking through trash for food. And what they don't see is a middle-class America or low-income America. They see the rich and the poor. What does that say about us? And all of the people that have fled. And even in California now, even in Los Angeles, we're seeing it. We're seeing the remnants of this. We're seeing it in Washington, D.C. in some cases. There has to be something. Something needs to be done, and I think everybody knows it.
And I think it's really important, Charlie, I just want to focus the conversation on this, which is that this is not an accident. This is not an act of nature. This is the consequence of the policies of the loony left.
Right, and so this is by design. So the left will create policies that protect the ruling class, the wise men of Washington, the philosopher kings, the elites, as we call them. And then they will then point to the inequality that they created as a reason to give themselves more power. And then the inequality will be exacerbated. Then they'll say we need more power because look at all the inequality. So then it will be exacerbated even further. And then that's what you have, the implementation of socialism, where the ruling elites, the philosopher kings, are able to live in permanent luxury while pointing to the inequality that they themselves created as the reason why they need to stay in power.
Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then what you'll see is the migration. So once they've wreaked havoc in one area, then they move. And they move to another area saying, whoa, this is just too much taxes on our business. We need to move out of here. Let's move to Arizona. Let's move to Nevada. Let's move to Utah. And then they start voting for the same policies there, creating the same problems in those communities that they created in San Francisco.
And Steve, it's all about mobility. America has always been about mobility. That's why this country is the greatest country ever to exist. There's nothing mobile about San Francisco, about an income tax rate where people can't keep the money that they're earning, sales tax, property tax, schools that are not working or functioning, civil institutions crumbling. And the elites can afford to price themselves out of it, though. They can afford to send their kids to the private schools. They can afford to have the private jets to go to better communities. It's the middle-class Americans that crumble under these policies.
Yes, and let's again make the political connection. So many of these policies are driven by the public sector unions that completely control the Democrats in this state of California where we are tonight and around the country too. All right, coming up.